How do I build an audience? That is one of the most common questions I get from both published and aspiring writers alike. I have been in the small business and entrepreneurship space for 20 years now, if you can believe it. And in the last 11 years, I have founded four of my own businesses. Most recently, I began my publishing business in 2022, where I wrote, published, and sold my debut novel in under 9 months. In mid-February 2022, I began writing the manuscript, and by mid-November of the same year, it had sold in 6 countries, ranked in the top 100 of all Ingram fiction, fantasy, romance titles, and it has only received 4 to 5 star reviews so far. Since then, I've published and sold a total of 3 novels, 4 planners, 12 journals, and a workbook. My fourth novel will be coming out this coming Halloween 2025, and I spend a good portion of my time and energy advising other writers who want to better navigate the whole writing, publishing, and selling process. Recently, I was asked to be a panelist at the San Francisco Writers Conference, and I was invited to offer 4 1-hour consulting blocks where attendees could swing by my table and get 8 free minutes of picking my brain. I spoke with them about everything from distribution platforms to hiring formatters to production timelines to visibility, branding, and marketing strategies. Many aspiring authors think that publishing a book just by itself will bring them visibility when it's really the other way around. In order to sell books, you need visibility first. This applies to both self-published and traditionally published books. A traditional publisher by themselves will not guarantee you visibility. Simply publishing a book is not a guaranteed way to increase your visibility because 3,500 books are published every single day. Your book is going to be one of thousands, so beware of putting the cart before the horse. The cart is going to be your book. Your horse is going to be your visibility. Your horse is what drives the book forward. It's the thing that carries it into the marketplace and places it in the hands of readers. If you just have the cart, it's just going to sit there until a reader just so happens to stumble upon it. It doesn't have the forward momentum of the horse. It's just going to sit here by itself. And after speaking with attendee after attendee at this conference, I realized that visibility was something that I needed to make a longer video about. The 8 minutes wasn't going to cut it. While I was able to give some super valuable, short and quick answers to point them in the right direction, there was so much I wanted to add. So that's what I'll be talking about today. I'm going to share my screen real quick. This first video is going to be the first of a 3 video series in which I go over the 3 main points that writers come to me with. 1 is how do I build an audience? 2 is what do I say to that audience? And 3 is how do I achieve my specific goals? How do I become successful is the question that I get all the time, and it's not an easy one to answer. Please join me for the ride and feel free to reach out to me with any questions that come up along the way. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to gatekeep any of this information. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. Visibility is something that can be achieved in 1,000 different ways. There is no one right way to do it as an author. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the best way to gain visibility for yourself, your brand, and your books is the way that feels most comfortable for you. Because the point here is to have fun, folks. When you find the visibility strategies that work for you, you're suddenly going to realize that meeting and connecting with your audiences is a blast. The whole point is to find your people because your vibe is your tribe at the end of the day. These are the people that you're going to be able to nerd out with, the people who understand your sense of humor, the people that speak the same language as you, figuratively, if not literally. Most of the attendees who came by my consultation table at the San Francisco Writers Conference were so stressed. because they had been overwhelmed by a whole load of information from the presenters and experts and felt like they weren't doing enough or were doing the wrong things. I had to remind almost all of them that this was supposed to be fun. Presumably, they became writers because it was something they enjoyed. And just because the whole writing, publishing, and selling process is hard work doesn't mean you aren't supposed to have fun along the way. Honestly, the most effective visibility strategies are those that are enjoyable for you because if you're comfortable, your audiences are going to be comfortable too. So please keep this in mind as we go through this video. I'm not looking to shame you here. I'm not looking to make you feel like you're behind or that you're not cut out for this. I'm hoping to give you insights into strategies that seem complicated on the outside, but can be simplified in ways that work best for you. So take a deep breath and just give me a little trust here. I've got you. Reach out to me if any questions come up along the way. I'm more than happy to answer them. All right. So most visibility strategies fall into two camps, in person and online. Most aspiring writers believe that online is the best way to do it these days, but many seasoned authors will tell you that in person is the way to go. So let's go over both. Starting with in person. These types of visibility opportunities include things like conventions, networking events, conferences, book clubs, bookstore signings and readings, speaker events, billboards, and physical signage, as well as any time you are walking around and interacting with people. Visibility can come from simply speaking with the people that you run into at social events, on the street, or in line at the grocery store. However, all of these strategies come with varying levels of success, and we want to focus our time, money, and effort on those that give us the highest returns. But this is also known as ROI, which means return on investment. You are investing your time, money, and effort into these strategies, and you want a high return on your investment. So let's look at some numbers. According to industry standards, the average conversion rate, meaning the rate at which shoppers become buyers for physical retail stores, typically ranges from 20 to 40%. This means that on average, 20 to 40% of the shoppers that enter a store will end up buying something. In contrast, the average conversion rate for online shopping or e-commerce platforms is estimated to be 1 to 3%, meaning that 1 to 3% of shoppers that visit an online store will end up buying something. And authors can typically expect similar numbers when it comes to in-person and online audiences, depending on the quality of the audience they are speaking to. So let's look at in-person opportunities, for example. We're still talking about in-person. If an author were to walk around an average city and stop people on the street to ask them to buy their book, we could guess that the conversion rate would be on the lower end of the spectrum, if not non-existent. So we are still dealing with the in-person conversion rate, which is around 20 to 40%, but it'll probably be on the lower end. So we might guess that there's a 10% conversion rate for this random walking around the city strategy. If an author were to walk around a convention whose topic was similar to the topics covered in the book that they wrote, the conversion rate could arguably be higher. So maybe it's closer to 30 or 40%. Still in person, 20 to 40% average. So maybe we're at the higher end of the average, 30 to 40% for conventions that have topic alignment. As a result, I know many authors whose main source of visibility and income stems from book-centered conventions, conferences, and other in-person events. If you are writing in the fantasy or sci-fi genres, for example, you might be successful at events like Comic-Cons. If you are writing in the business genre, you might be more successful at business-focused events. The main takeaway from this is to focus on the visibility strategies that provide the potential for the highest conversion rate, which means focusing on those where there is subject, topic, and/or value alignment between the potential audience and your books. The same applies to online visibility strategies. So we're talking about online now. In the world of online platforms, you can find and connect with audiences on social media platforms, community groups, podcasts, video content, newsletters, online advertising, blogs, press outlets, crowdfunding platforms, and more. However, your efforts are going to be best applied to those online spaces where there is a greater potential for a higher conversion rate, i.e., those with aligned audiences. So if your book is about the migratory patterns of North American birds, and you show up in a Facebook group that is focused around sales strategies for women entrepreneurs, there will likely not be a high conversion rate for you in that particular audience. If you write about mental health practices for corporate workers, and you get interviewed on a podcast about poetry, there also might not be a high conversion rate for you. Obviously, you can increase your chances of sales simply through increasing the size of the potential audience. Converting 1% of 1 million people is always going to lead to more sales than 1% of 100 people. However, our time, money, and effort is going to give us the highest returns when we seek out potential audiences that can provide us with a higher conversion rate. Those are the audiences with the highest alignment. Topic alignment, value alignment, and subject alignment. So, if you are a romance writer, for example, you will likely have much better success selling your books to an audience of 300 people at a romance convention, where the potential conversion rate might be 40%, instead of placing an ad in an online magazine geared toward fly fishers, where the potential conversion rate may be 1%. Even if that particular magazine has a readership of 10,000 people, because 1% of 10,000 equals 100, 40% of 300 equals 120. Unless your romantic characters are fly fishers, where there's topic alignment, it may have a higher conversion rate. Size does not equal quality, but we do want to keep an eye on both metrics as we make these decisions. Maybe you want to focus on a podcast that has a listener base of 100,000 instead of a newsletter that only has 400 subscribers. As long as that podcast is related to the topic of your writing, as long as there is audience alignment. When it comes to deciding where to prioritize our efforts, I always like to reference the statistics that have been gathered by the Nielsen Group. Every 2 years, they do a massive survey of consumers to determine what marketing platforms are most trusted by those consumers. So last time I checked, it was 2022, and these were the top 5. This is where the power of word of mouth and referrals comes in. At the top, we have 89% of consumers would trust opinions from people that they know. This means that 89% of consumers would trust product or service recommendations from close friends, neighbors, family members, or colleagues. This is why organic instead of paid engagement, whether online or in person, is so important. Because people can see what brands, companies, organizations, people, products, or services their connections are organically watching and liking or disliking. If they see that a connection knows, likes, trusts, and engages with a particular author, then they will be much more likely to also know, like, and trust that author. So how many people are actively talking about your writing with people that they know? How can you get more people to talk about it? Number 2, the next most trusted marketing source, according to this survey, is branded websites. They have found that 71% of consumers trust websites that are set up intentionally to not only showcase products and services, but also reflect the values, vision, mission of the company, organization, or public figure. That is exactly why we are going to be focusing on branding in the next video. Having a clear personal brand as an author is going to do more for you in your writing than simply throwing money at ads or any other shiny object that exists out there. Number three is ads in newspapers. And that is 68.5% of consumers trust ads that they see in established press sources like newspapers. This also follows the same logic of recommendations from people I know, because the consumers who read newspapers likely have some level of brand loyalty to that particular press organization. They have chosen that outlet as one of their trusted sources for information about current events, etc. So if they see you advertised there, some of their trust will transfer to you. So do you have a press strategy? Is there a newspaper outlet that your potential customers and readers read regularly? Number four on this list is ads before movies, and this is a tricky one for those of us who don't have massive budgets for that kind of advertisement. But the logic is that consumers readily grasp that if a product or service is featured in this way, then the company or person selling it is likely already wildly successful and desirable. For authors, you might want to consider sponsorship opportunities where you sponsor content that is being directed to your target audiences. So this could be one way to take advantage of this type of product placement that happens with movie ads. So for example, if you are writing a book about leadership skills for C-suite executives, then you may want to consider being a sponsor for an executive conference where your name, brand, and book will be front and center to all the attendees. It could be your version of a movie ad, but instead of a movie, it's like a keynote speaker talk, and you're the sponsor of it. The marketing channel that I want to discuss in particular comes in at number 5 on the list, and that's consumer opinions posted online. So 67% of consumers trust other consumers' opinions that they post publicly on online boards, product pages, websites, and/or profiles. And this is super important for authors. We know how important the conversation is around reader reviews. Whether these reviews are posted on Amazon, Etsy, Google, or somewhere else, they are considered to be one of the most trusted forms of marketing for all creative industries, but especially for authors. This again follows the logic of recommendations from people I know, but just takes a step backward to include opinions from people with whom they do not have immediate firsthand connections. Humans are social creatures, and information has been passed through the grapevine for millennia. The massive reach of he, she, they said is potentially limitless, especially when you realize how globally connected we all are, and you can tap into that power by strategically cultivating your online reviews. The point of discussing these channels is to illustrate that connecting with your audiences is so much more than social media. Yes, many of the above are linked to online social spaces, but maybe your target audience isn't on social media. If you are targeting elders with your books, your time and effort may be better spent on offline marketing channels. If you are targeting enterprise level businesses, you might be better off spending your time at networking events and conferences. By getting super clear on who your particular books would best appeal to, who they would best align with, you will be able to determine what channels will probably work best for you. I also want you to notice that the top 5 sources here do not include social media ads. In fact, they're at the bottom of the trust range. According to the 2021 surveys, 45% of consumers do not trust SMS or text ads. 38% do not trust online banner ads. 36% don't trust social media ads. 36% don't trust search engine ads. 34 don't trust mobile ads. And 33 don't trust video ads. And yet, these are the types of marketing channels that many people are spending way too much time, money, and effort on. They have a lower ROI, remember that means return on investment, because they remove the human-to-human interaction that we need in order to build brand loyalty. While they can convey the branding elements that may attract potential customers to you, they are often doing it in annoying ways. These types of ads are specifically designed to interrupt, distract, and stimulate, making them very hard to ignore. They thrust products and services in your face without consent, removing the consumer's autonomy. It feels icky because we did not actively choose to interact with them. They are forced upon us whether we wanted them or not. When we are interacting with the top five sources that we discussed previously, we have a much higher degree of consent. We are the ones who are opening up the newspapers to read it. We are the ones looking at the reviews on the product pages. There is an element of consumer choice in these channels. The overall message that I want to convey here is to think about who specifically may be interested in buying your particular book, because that is going to be the compass you use to when you decide where to find and connect with your audiences. When people ask me what social media platforms they should use in order to sell their books, it's an incomplete question because no one platform will work for every single author. Because each author is going to have a different type of audience, as well as different preferences when it comes to how they like to make and distribute their content. But if you want to get really specific with it, the Pew Research Center has some great statistics when it comes to who is using what social media platforms. So you can make data-driven decisions when it comes to where you want to show up. Look at the social media fact sheet on their website and study the numbers carefully. They will help point you in the right direction so that you're not wasting your time and effort on platforms where you're not going to reach your audiences effectively. Feel free to pause this video, rewind, look at these numbers, but the website, the Pew Research website, is going to have the most up-to-date numbers for you. I'm not going to go over them individually. Next, I want you to ask yourself personally how you like to make and distribute your content. Do you like making videos? Do you prefer writing text-based content? Do you have a knack for creating graphic images? Do you prefer speaking your message out loud? There are certain norms on each social media platform, and if making videos is not in your wheelhouse, then don't choose one that will require a lot of videos, like TikTok or YouTube, for example. Don't force yourself to show up on online platforms or even in-person spaces where the content delivery feels awkward for you. Your discomfort will be noticed by the audience and it will decrease the potential for conversions. The more comfortable you are, the more trusting they will be. However, if you do find a visibility strategy that has the potential to be very fruitful for you, but you just don't have the skill set perfected yet, don't be afraid to practice until it does feel comfortable for you. I run into this a lot when it comes to public speaking for authors. Many of us are introverts, and the whole concept of public speaking, whether it's at in-person events or on podcasts and videos, can be terrifying. It honestly took me many years in order to perfect the art of public speaking, but now it comes so naturally to me that I get compliments on my performances all the time. I am an internationally recognized speaker, and I do podcast interviews multiple times a month, but only because I've spent years practicing the skill set. I've been public speaking since 2011, and I've been podcasting since 2019. So I have many years under my belt. Start where you are comfortable and then branch out from there. But the most important step to all of this is to invite all of these potential audience members into your own community space. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the one piece of advice, the quick and dirty piece of advice that I give to people when we only have like under 30 seconds to chat about it. The best way to increase your conversion rate over time is to gather your people into your own space. So you can invite them to join your newsletter list. You can invite them to follow you on a certain social media platform, come to your events, or join your book club. This is because you are going to have the highest conversion rate within your own community. not someone else's. The people within your community have intentionally and consensually, and hopefully enthusiastically, opted into learning more about you, your brand, and your books. And they are going to be the ones who are most likely to buy from you as a result. Over the 11 years that I have been a business owner, I have attended hundreds and hundreds of networking events, conferences, and conventions. I have spoken to thousands and thousands of people, and the vast majority of them were not my people. They were not interested in the topics that I was interested in. They did not have the same values as I do, and they did not want to continue to get to know me after meeting me. And that is okay. Honestly, that is preferred because out of the thousands of people that I have met, a significant number of them have turned out to be my kind of people. These are the people who I've invited into my communities, to join my newsletters, to follow me on social media, and attend my events. Because of these efforts, I have a social media audience of over 7,000 people and my own personal networking community of about 400 people who are highly interested and engaged with me, my brand, and my books. That's why my launches are successful. It's because I have a much higher conversion rate with my direct audiences than the public at large. And my audience is still growing every single day. Do not expect to go viral overnight, folks. Virality is a very fast path to crashing and burning because the broader the potential audience, the lower the conversion rate, especially if it's online, and the higher the chance that you will get attention from people that you really, really don't want attention from. Viral content can very much bring in a whole lot of new potential audience members who could potentially want to know about you and your books, but it will also bring in a good number of haters. People who just want to hate on you for the sake of hating. I've seen this happen time and time and time and time again. Recently, I had a video that went viral on one of my social media platforms, and I got my very first hate DM from someone. I feel so honored, honestly. The topic of the post was an anti-billionaire rhetoric. And while it is a topic that is adjacent to my brand values and interests, we'll be talking about that in next video. This post, this topic, also has the potential to reach beyond those who could possibly understand me, my values, and my brand. A while ago, like 2 years ago, I also had a viral video that specifically reached a community of Dungeons and Dragons nerds. So this was via Critical Role, if you've ever heard of that particular fandom. The D&D video got around 45,000 views. The anti-billionaire video is currently sitting at about 22,000. I think it's up to 25 now. Even though that first D&D video got over twice the amount of views that the second anti-billionaire video got, I still have yet to receive a hate message as a result of the D&D video. Even though that video got more views and spread more widely, it reached an audience that has more alignment with me, my values, and my brand versus the audience that was reached by the anti-billionaire video. Yes, these two videos are on two different social media platforms, and there are some minor differences in the audiences on those platforms, but the differences between the platforms are not enough to account for the difference in response based on content topic. This all goes to show you that being as intentional and strategic as possible when it comes to choosing where and how to be visible is more important than the size of the audience. Now that I've mentioned the concept of an author brand multiple times now throughout this video, and the conversation has also turned toward content topics, you might be wondering at this point what messaging you're supposed to spread on your own platforms. What content are you supposed to share with all these potential eyeballs on your journey to increasing your visibility? That's what the next video is going to be about, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, do not hesitate to reach out to me with any questions that have popped up for you along the way. That's what I'm here for. I do not want to gatekeep any of this information, like I said, and I'm happy to brain share with you based on my 20 years of experience in the business space and lifetime spent as a creative. Not only have I been able to make high quality creative products, but I've also been able to produce and sell those products efficiently and effectively, and I want to support you in doing the same. All right? So follow me into the next video. This will happen next Saturday when I answer the question, what do I actually say to the audience that I am building? Take care, guys.